Reuters reporting today that Ottawa may drop the emissions cap on the oil and gas industries as part of a new climate plan. Let's get more on this with Amanda Bryant, Senior Analyst of Oil and Gas Program at Pembina Institute. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
We'll chat about the cap in just a second, but can I get your first reaction to the type of projects that were announced in the nation-building announcement?
Generally, we're very pleased to see the mix of projects that was announced. I think we do have some reservations around public dollars going, or additional public dollars going to LNG Canada Phase 2. LNG Canada Phase 2 has been approved for nearly a decade, and yet the private investors are sort of sitting on their hands in terms of moving forward with that project. And so it's not up to government to actually place the risk around that project onto taxpayers by providing additional tax dollars. So generally we're pleased, and generally we do support the idea of climate competitiveness that the Carney government is trying to promote. But we do think that there should be no further public tax dollars toward fossil fuels projects such as LNG Canada Phase 2.
Okay, let's talk about the cap then, which there's discussion now about the possibility of it being lifted. It isn't actually officially in place. But what is your reaction to the idea of dropping it completely?
Right. So as you say, there is no emissions cap right now. So that policy was just at the proposal stage. So it was never actually finalized and implemented. So there are no impacts per se from that proposed policy as yet. My reaction to it, to the proposed policy potentially being scrapped, are that we do need policy pathways to address emissions in Canada, and particularly emissions from the oil and gas sector. So the oil and gas sector is responsible for about a third of Canada's emissions, and it's growing, and it's growing largely because of the oil sands. And so you do need policy levers to actually adequately deal with emissions from the oil sands. In the absence of an emissions cap, we need something else. Potentially, one policy pathway would be to focus on strengthening industrial carbon pricing. So we would support that. And again, we do support this idea of climate competitiveness. And so the more we actually try to promote clean energy and decarbonization through policies, the more Canadians will actually benefit, the more we'll actually send a clear signal to the investment community and to encourage decarbonization and investment in decarbonization and clean energy.
So, Amanda, as you know, Alberta says that having an emissions cap would limit production in oil and gas. Is there a way to ease emissions without reducing production?
So we wouldn't agree that the emissions cap would limit production. You can strongly regulate oil and gas emissions, including emissions from the oil sands, without reducing production. And so our analysis actually showed that you can introduce policies such as an emissions cap in a way that is consistent with maintained levels of production. It's simply a tool to ensure that industry follows through on what it's already said that it can do in terms of decarbonization. So that would be what I would think we should focus on, is actually introducing measures, policy measures that ensure that investment dollars are flowing through to decarbonization. So emissions cap could have done that. Is it the only policy tool to do that? Not necessarily. We can move forward with other types of policy levers, but our trajectory toward climate competitiveness can't just be about projects. It's also got to be about policies. So I do think strengthening industrial carbon pricing would be one way to do that.
What are some of the commitments that have already been made?
So commitments in terms of climate policies.
From the industries, yes.
So the oil and gas industry has committed to reducing methane emissions in the conventional sector. So that's one very pragmatic thing that we can do. There's lots of voluntary commitments to reducing methane emissions on that side of the industry and on sort of conventional oil and gas production. And then on the oil sand side of things, what they've committed to is building out large-scale carbon capture and storage, so in the form of the Pathways Alliance project. And so that's now what we're seeing is sort of being integrated into this potential grand bargain. And so following through on that would be positive. That's how the oil sands would actually sort of help to drive down emissions. And again, they are one of the hugest contributors to emissions in Canada.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like there would be that offset, right? We're hearing from federal officials that they would be looking at supporting more of that carbon capture work as a way to offset what is put out by the oil sands work. Does carbon capture work? Is it an effective way of then reducing emissions?
So it's one of the tools in the toolkit, but it depends on how much you are planning to actually grow production. So it can help offset emissions. It can be a tool in the toolkit, as I say, but we do actually need to think about the larger footprint of the sector. And so again, policies to actually focus on driving down emissions from that sector are going to be very important.
Is it a matter of building more carbon capture projects, or are there other avenues you see that are workable?
So I think it's about creating the right investment environment. So creating, again, a strong industrial carbon price that ensures that private capital is encouraged and is directed through to the right kinds of projects. And those are decarbonization projects, and those are clean growth projects. So that should really be the focus.
All right, Amanda Bryant, I've got to leave it there, but thank you for your time. Amanda, Senior Analyst of Oil and Gas Program at Pembina Institute.